Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing. Today, we're going to be talking about all the breaking news in and around the sport of boxing and big fight cards this weekend. Well worth paying attention to. So, stay tuned to then. We'll get into it, jump in the live, participate, and we'll be back after this message. Welcome back, boxing fans. So, this is a great weekend. And as a boxing fan, I'm so happy and excited to see the push and the attention that this weekend's fight is garnering. This is a fight people have been talking about for a long time now, and finally it's here. And unlike quite a few fights that happen, specifically fights that aren't based in America with American fighters, generally a lot of YouTubers tend to ignore those fights completely. And they are ignoring this fight as well. But when you go on YouTube and you look at just general boxing content, this is everywhere. Literally, I cannot watch all the videos that are being made about this weekend's fights. And that's exciting because for us hardcore boxing fans, this is the shit. This is really going to be a fantastic weekend of boxing. Not just, of course, the Better BF Bivol fight card, but also the double feature out of Japan on Sunday and Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, depending on, I guess, where you're from. Raf's in the house. Hollow Ninja, what's up? Hope you're having a good day, brother. Today is Taiwan's birthday, 10/10. So I'm at home, chilling like a villain, taking it easy. It's a great thing. The winner of Spence versus Funduro has to fight Bud. It was just announced. Yeah, I didn't put this on today's conversation, but since you brought it up, let's talk about it. We know that they offered a 10-day extension to the Bud Crawford Funduro fight, right? And for me, I was hoping that Bud Crawford would force the matter, force Funduro to step up and live up to his words, or be stripped of the WBO title, showing that obviously his team are full of shit. And in truth, this doesn't really prove that they're not full of shit, but based on how it unfolded, it kind of tells you the reality of the story. They were never going to fight Bud Crawford. They were always going to fight Errol Spence. They had to come to terms with Bud Crawford to allow themselves to move forward for a Spence fight. The problem with this is, where does that leave Crawford? He fought once this year, and that's all it's going to be. And now he's going to wait until when? Summer of 2025 before potentially he can get a fight, whether that's a Canelo Alvarez fight or the winner of Spence Funduro. So then, is he going to have an opportunity to fight Tim Tszyu for undisputed by 2025? Like, Bud Crawford is 37 years old. Extending this shit like this is not really the best look. I think he should have just forced Funduro to be stripped of the title, took that title, and then waited for Tim Tszyu to win, and then got Turki Al-Sheikh to push for that undisputed fight. And then Funduro Spence winner could have then challenged him for undisputed. But in the meantime, he's going to be sitting around, twiddle his thumbs, getting older by the day, and that's not really a good look. And then what do we get out of it? A Funduro Spence fight, a fight nobody gives a fuck about. It's a fight we always knew they were going to push down our throats. But once again, this is what the PBC does. Give us fights that nobody wanted. Nobody's asking for. Nobody's interested in Spence jumping back into a world title fight after fucking a year and a half out of the ring, coming off of a brutal beatdown, right? But that's the PBC. Mara says, what's up, Sean? I haven't been this excited for a fight since Canelo GG1, true 50-50 fight. That's true. Who you got? Better BAF and Bivol. We'll talk about that in a second. I believe there was an agreement with Bud. Good day, Sean. What's up, Boxing Kangaroo? Yeah, obviously they came to terms. You hope that that's the situation. But this fight's not going to happen until January, February, which means that when is a potential fight between Crawford and the winner of that fight, right? Like, I mean, Crawford's going to sit around for more than a year out of the ring, coming off of a tough fight against a tough fighter in Madrimov, who's already getting back in the ring before the end of this year. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. My bets are placed. Better BF by round 12 TKO. Yup, Crawford allowing Funduro to make a voluntary defense suggest that his priority is a Canelo fight. Exactly. Bivol wins UD. Sean's thoughts on Jamel Boo Boo. You guys just jump straight through stuff, man. Let's go through one at a time. Slow your fucking roll. So here we go. Obviously, let's talk about the elephant in the room. This weekend, October 12th, Beterbiev Bivol, as mentioned earlier, this is one of the best fights of 2025, or sorry, 24. A fight we've been asking for a long time. Even before these two guys were in place, we were still asking for this undisputed unification fight. When it was Andre Ward versus Adonis Stevenson, when it was Kovalev versus Adonis Stevenson. That's literally how long ago we've been pushing and waiting for the undisputed light heavyweight title fight. And finally, thank you very much, Turkey Al Sheikh and Saudi Arabia. Finally, we get this fight. Just like we got Usyk and Fury, finally we're getting this fight, which is going to be a fucking great fight. Today I was watching Anthony Yarde versus Beterbiev, just, to refresh myself on what Beterbiev has been doing recently. And I definitely think that Bivol early on in that fight will be winning rounds, will make it difficult. But the one thing we know about Beterbiev is that he is single-minded, focused. Nothing can distract him. Even when he gets hurt, he just pulls out, circles, throws his jab. He's able to keep even keel, even through the toughest situation, right? Getting dropped, whatever the situation may be, huge cut on his forehead, whatever happens. He shows the determination to just continue doing what he needs to do to eventually break down his opponent and win. As I mentioned in previous videos, the one question mark we have with Bivol is how tough is he? We don't really know how tough he is, and we don't really know how he deals with adversity because we've never seen him deal with those situations. So I'm picking Beterbiev to win. I don't know how, but I'm picking him to win. And if Bivol is able to show us the things he's never shown us before, then he will win. And then I will eat my words and praise him for, showing us things that we did not know about him previously. I see that, what's his face? Sergio Mora is picking Bivol by stoppage against Beterbiev. That would be a true shock, but let's see what's going on. It's not Bud's fault, Sean. Well, it's Bud's fault because he didn't need to agree to it, right? He could say, no, fuck it. We're going to fight next, or you're giving me your WBO title. Funduro still has the WBC title. He could still fight Errol Spence for the WBC belt, right? Get that other one and then fight Tim Tszyu early on next year and then still have an opportunity to face the winner for Undisputed later on. You see Beterbiev workout today. Dude is a monster. He's a monster. That's true. That footage is going everywhere. Bivol got his what? Yeah, I ain't counting Bivol out. Both guys capable of winning. That's it, right? That's why when we talk about a real 50-50 fight, you can see how both guys can win, right? As I talked about, you can go check it out. My past video about this fight, I broke it down and talked about some of the concerns regarding Beterbiev. Obviously, age, coming off of injury, these things potentially could impact his performance. And that may be the difference between winning and losing. I didn't know Janibek was an email champion, according to JB. Not surprised. Yeah, I heard that video yesterday. I'm like, right? Him always pushing that racial double standard. Like the difference here is that Lomachenko did not drop his title. He was elevated by the president of the WBC, right? Andrade dropped his title to blatantly duck Janibek. He's mandatory, right? He did not get elevated. He did not get pushed into a super title. He had no title. He literally got stripped. The same thing we're asking Bud Crawford to do with Sebastian Funduro. That's what Janibek did to Andrade. He knows that Funduro and them are playing games. They're passionate about fighting Spence. Of course they are. That is the PBC agenda, right? So it's no shock, no surprise. It's exactly what we always knew was going to happen. They showed us that from day one when Errol Spence walked into the ring. How long ago was that, right? When Funduro fought Tim Tszyu. That shit seems like fucking years ago. That's how long we've been waiting for them to finally figure out when they're going to fight Spence. They could have already fought fucking Spence. Why is it taking so long, right? Why have we been sitting around waiting for the inevitable when they could have just did this shit and we could be all over it fucking already? This could be a fight on the Tank Davis undercard. But, it is what it is. Let's move to some new news. Obviously, this is breaking news from yesterday. David Morrell versus David Morrell. Or let's say David Benavidez versus David Morrell. This is a great fight. I think it's funny that guys like, what's his face? The guy from the media, old media dude, put out, how great David Benavidez has done in his last 4 fights, right? And even though he's been fighting this great opposition, Canelo Alvarez is still not interested in fighting him. But what he fails to tell us is what David Benavidez did prior to that. I praised David Benavidez for his 2023. It was his best year of his career. He fought Plant and Andrade. Fantastic. This year, he fought a retired Gvozdyk, who, sure, at one time was a unified champion, but since then has got knocked out and basically been fighting bum-ass opponents in a comeback attempt after 3-4 years out of the ring. And now he's fighting David Morrell. This is a fight like Plant that could have happened earlier. But of course, the PBC didn't give us the fights we wanted. They stretched that shit out all the way for Canelo Alvarez to knock out Plant, only to then have that fight made. But at that point, it's old news. Plant already got beat. And now you're fighting David Morrell, but this fight should have happened at 168. Now you're going to do it at 175. But what's the significance of that? So you can win the WBA regular title. And of course, they're going to, label whoever wins the world champion. And then they're going to do in-house PBC fights, not fighting the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev, but fighting in-house PBC opponents for that world title. Even though the real world champion is going to be Beterbiev or Bivol, not Morrell and not fucking Benavidez, right? But this is, of course, what the PBC always does. Just look at Tank Davis, the king of the regular WBA title. Sean, you think Beterbiev got scar tissue from the Marcus Brown fight? Bivol can cause a cut. No, I think that's okay now. They've done a good job, I think, on that, so I don't think that's a big deal. But obviously, he's got scar tissue around his eyes, right, based on previous cuts. Did you see what Hers said? Beterbiev looks depleted. Who? Hearn? I don't see it. Looked in great shape to me. Eddie Hearn said that. Well, Eddie Hearn is always in the corner opposite to Beterbiev, so it's no surprise that he's not really in favor of him. He was kind of the guy subtly suggesting that Beterbiev was on the PEDs when he fought Callum Smith. So, what does that tell you? Boxing Kangaroo says, that's true. Canelo will fight the winner of Jamel and Boo Boo. Mark my words. Well, in truth, that's not a bad fight either, because this is 2 opponents that people literally have been saying that Canelo Alvarez was ducking for fucking 8 years, just like Charlo's brother. It's ironic that people can make video after video, go out on narratives consistently, talking about how Canelo's ducking this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy, only to then, when he signs to fight them, call it a cherry pick. But then you're going to praise David Benavidez fighting Caleb Plant coming off of a knockout loss to Canelo Alvarez. Right? As far as this Benavidez Morrell fight, I think it's a great fight. I mean, you guys watch my channel, you know who I'm picking. I'm picking David Morrell. I know David Morrell did not look good in his last fight, but that was against an awkward opponent who didn't come to win, but only came to not get beat, right? So it was very difficult for him to get off and look comfortable against that kind of opponent. But David Benavidez is not that. He's going to be right there in front of him. He's an offensive fighter, meaning that he is open for counter punches and his defense is going to be lacking. So I think it's a great fight. David Benavidez, I think, doesn't hit as hard, isn't as fast, doesn't have as good footwork as David Morrell. I think David Morrell is going to win that fight, and that will expose a lot of this so-called David Benavidez fanboyism, because the guy they've been pushing so hard as a guy Canelo's ducking is likely to get fucking knocked out in this fight. And you tell me, is this a pay-per-view fight? We've already had David Benavidez pay-per-view versus Plant, pay-per-view versus Andrade. Obviously, he was on the undercard of Tank Davis in the other fights, and now he's going to probably headline against Morrell. None of those three fights are legitimate pay-per-view, but the PBC fucking can only push pay-per-views. But they're great for boxing, according to some. Or PBC will get Jamel Andrade winner to fight Skull for the IBF to better market the Canelo fight. That would be the smarter move. If you win the IBF title, now you have something the Canelo wants, even though obviously he still should have it. But I want to see how the PBC would market Jermell Charlo Skull fight on pay-per-view. You're so cute when you're calling out the YTBC hypocrisy, Sean. That's me, cute. But as far as this fight goes, I think it's a great matchup. It's a fight, obviously, we wanted over the last 2 years, right? Last year, when David Benavidez' manager said that this fight was already contracted before he went on to fight Plant and Andrade, we were saying that this is a fight that we want to see. It's a great matchup. Obviously, for Morrell, it's kind of been better that it's taken longer, giving him more of an opportunity to get older, to get more experience, and to get better. Because to be fair, right, people shit on Canelo Alvarez for fighting Berlanga, but Berlanga's resume is as good, if not better, than David Morrell. David Morrell's resume is hot trash, right? But for a young up-and-coming fighter who you're trying to develop, it's understandable. No one's going to hate on a guy for, being developed. But let's move forward to topic number 2. This has also just been mandated. The WBO has officially ordered Janibek to defend his WBO 160-pound world title against mandatory fighter Hamza Shiraz. And this is a fight that I always wanted to see. Obviously, it's a great fight. I also heard previously that the WBC had also demanded or mandated Hamza Shiraz to fight Carlos Adames. So it seems as if Hamza Shiraz has 2 directions he can go. He can obviously go the WBC route, or he can go the WBO route. I think, obviously, just for the point of money and ease, you would think he would go the WBO route, right? Obviously, the Saudis would be happy to work with Janibek, right? Janibek obviously is represented by ESPN Top Rank, who have shown that they don't really want to spend much money to build his career. But if the Saudis are willing to fund the cash, that should be easy to do. Obviously, Hamza Shiraz is a Frank Warren fighter. We know Bob Arum and Frank Warren work together. So it's a great fight. Makes tons of sense. I hope it happens. I think it's a really good quality fight. Obviously not a fight that's going to get a lot of attention from casual YTBC boxing channels, but nonetheless a fight that is necessary. We're still going to have, obviously, Adames and Lara on the PBC side doing nothing, right? That's to be expected, right? Probably not fighting one another, probably not fighting anybody. But as long as we get the 2 best fighters in the division actually doing something, that's significant. The middleweight division definitely needs something. And I think for Janibek, this is a big test. He's going to definitely have to be at his best to beat a guy like Hamza Shiraz, who I really like. I think Hamza Shiraz is a dangerous fighter. Dangerous. Mara says, I don't think Heyman will approve this fight. Don't be surprised if Ben or Morrell pull out due to injury. Well, if somebody pulls out of that David Benavidez fight, that would be a bad look, because it is an in-house fight. Regardless of who wins or who loses, it doesn't hurt the PBC or a Heyman. They're still collecting all the cash, and then they still have the winner, right, that they can then do a rematch with or push in another direction. So, hopefully that doesn't get in the way. And I wouldn't think it would, but as you say, you never know. We were waiting for a Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell fight for fucking 2, 3, 4 years, and that fight never got done. And even at this point, when you could do it as an old man fight, right? Gary Russell's gotten beat, hasn't been active. Leo Santa Cruz has been active, obviously got beat as well. You would figure now would be the time to do that fight, right? Especially considering the 126-pound division is so up in the air, or they could do it at 130 because currently at 130 there's no real superstar fighter at that weight class anyway. But we'll have to wait to see how that unfolds. But as far as this fight between Janibek and Hamza Shiraz, I hope Hamza Shiraz team forces the mandatory, because this is definitely a fight I want to see by early 2025. I think we need to see it, right? Because otherwise, what the fuck are we getting from this middleweight division? We're going to have Lara fight Sean Porter next, right? Somebody like that. I can only imagine. Adrian Broner. The Tyson Fury card has been announced as well. Usyk versus Fury. As we mentioned earlier, the Boholiuk Madrimov fight is going to be on that fight, and that's great. As well as Moses Atume. Sorry if I butcher his pronunciation. Obviously, Moses is a guy that people are talking about being the next great UK heavyweight, a guy that wants to break Mike Tyson's record for the youngest heavyweight champion in history. I don't know if fighting a guy like Dempsey McKean is going to do that. It's a good fight, a solid opponent for him. But if you beat him, does that mean you're going to get a world title fight against, say, Daniel Dubois in early 2025? Because if he wants to break that record, I think he's got to fight for the title before May of 2025, right? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But obviously, he needs to stay busy. This is good that he's getting out there. I think it's a good opponent, hard puncher, experience. But if the things people say about Moses Atume are true, he should win convincingly. You also have, of course, Fisher, who obviously has a big push behind him in the UK. Obviously, Americans don't really know him that well, but he's a guy that people were talking about potentially fighting Atume, right? And maybe the reason they're doing this is to showcase them on the same card together for a future fight between the two of them. He's going to be fighting Dave Allen. We know Dave Allen, rugged, tough fighter. What do they call him? The elephant. So, I don't know why Dave Allen is coming back. I know he made a lot of money with Eddie Hearn, retired, has a lot of houses and properties that he invested in. So obviously he's earning a good monthly salary just off of rental properties. But he figures he wants to get in, and he can be the guy to expose Fisher. So we will see. Then, of course, we have McCann versus McGrail. I don't know what to say too much about that fight. This is like really just domestic level type of opponents. I don't think either guy are right top level, top 10 caliber fighters, just like Isaac Lowe versus Lee McGregor as well. Lee McGregor, I'm surprised he's even still fighting. But it is what it is. Obviously, for the UK fan base that this is being sold to, this is a great fight, right? You have Fury Usyk 2. That in itself is a fight that's fantastic. If Usyk ends up beating Fury for the second time, easily he becomes my fighter of 2024. Easily. I don't think you can make a claim for anybody else. I'm sure people will, but I don't know if you truly can. Fighting a guy 60 pounds bigger than you, Fury might come in even bigger for this fight, maybe 80 pounds heavier, just to be more punch resilient, right? So we will see. But nonetheless, it's a solid card. I'm very excited, of course, by Boholiuk and Madrimov, and Atume versus Dempsey McKean. Those are three very intriguing fights. Then, of course, the fight that we're mostly talking about is the Sergey Boholiuk Israel Madrimov fight. This shit's fire, man. This shit is fire. This is a fight that we were all super excited about hearing from, right? Like, this is a great matchup. Obviously, we feel Sergey Boholiuk, most people, I do at least, felt that he was robbed against Virgil Ortiz, right? And Israel Madrimov, some people even think he was robbed by Bud Crawford. I don't think so. I thought he lost because he just wasn't active enough. But you put these two guys in the ring together as the main event leading into a Tyson Fury, Usyk, undisputed fight. Man, this shit is dynamite. And stylistically, this fight should be really good. We know Boholiuk is going to pressure and pressure. We know Madrimov obviously is a little slicker, right? A guy that uses his in and out, uses his feet, feints a lot, trying to open up his opponent for big shots. So it could be a war or it could be over quick. But let me know, who do you have in this fight? Do you think Bochuk has enough to beat Madrimov? Obviously, he's got a lot more experience. Him, 24 wins, 2 losses, 23 KOs. Madrimov, 10-1-1 with 7 KOs. Obviously, he's shown power, but not to the same extent as Boholiuk has. But if you look at their resumes, in truth, Madrimov's level of opposition has been better than Boholiuk. He was fighting really top-level fighters from day one. They really fast-tracked him quickly. Both Janibek and Hamza haven't been chin-checked, in my opinion. Either guy can win by KO. That's true. I think, actually, Hamza, because he's draining himself so much to 160, he looks like his punch resilience is not that great, right? And, we will see if he gets tested versus Janibek. Glad to see Boholiuk, Madrimov getting more opportunities. Both guys can become future world champions again. True. And see, this is the great thing about promoters that are doing their job properly. Guys that take on big fights, risky fights, don't get thrown away if they lose. They get reused, given opportunities to redeem themselves, given opportunities to make more money in their careers. So I think that's great. Both guys come off losses, but both guys really, in the court of public opinion, kind of won, right? They both walked away far more recognized and far more appreciated than they did going into those 2 fights. Obviously, most people were picking Virgil Ortiz and Bud Crawford to win those fights. That's how it unfolded, but it did not unfold as cleanly and as easily as people were predicting. But nonetheless, this is a dynamite matchup. I'm super excited. Watching from Tampa Bay, Florida, no electricity, riding out hurricane with Sean. Are you still having a hurricane? Another hurricane number 2. I know you guys got walloped by the hurricane last week. We had a typhoon, but if you watch my channel, you saw where I live, it had no impact at all. Obviously, if you're on the coast or the south, there was a lot more damage and bigger issues going on there than where I live in the center of Taiwan. But sorry to hear that. Hope everything is okay, Eugene. Be safe. And then, of course, this fight, we've mentioned it already, Charlo versus Andrade. This is a great matchup, right? Both guys are in a position where, this is a crossroads for these 2 guys. Charlo, self-enclosed retirement, right? Mental health, drinking issues, right? Really sort of sidetracked his career. This was a guy who was the WBC middleweight champion, had potential opportunities to fight Lara, Carlos Adames, Golovkin, right? Bubu Andrade. Those fights were all there. But for some reason, none of those fights were able to be made. And then, of course, he went into a hiatus, got slapped in the mouth by Caleb Plant. Obviously, we'd love to see him versus Plant. I'm sure if he beats Andrade, that's probably going to be an in-house PBC fight that happens next. I know people have been talking about the winner of this versus Canelo, but it's far more likely that if Charlo wins, that he's going to be facing Caleb Plant in another pay-per-view PBC card, right? Let's just keep it 100. This is a fight that obviously people were pushing for, right? Saying that, Golovkin was a unified champion, have these 2 guys face each other. They become unified, and then the winner faces Golovkin for undisputed at middleweight. That would have been dynamite. But Andrade showed no interest in taking on Charlo, and then obviously dropped the titles to duck Janibek, and then moved up to 168 to duck an opportunity to become a Canelo Alvarez mandatory, only to then face David Benavidez and literally get his ass whooped and get embarrassed and exposed. Because what people often said about Bubu was this guy has never fought a world champion, past, future, present. I mean, it's hard to look at an elite fighter and not find any world champion on their resume, right? It's very unlikely, unusual. Usually, guys will fight old ex-world champions for experience on the come-up, right? But this guy hadn't fought any. And any fighter he's faced as a world champion, none of them went on to become world champions. So it really exposes kind of the lack of a quality resume that he had. Charlo, on the other hand, obviously he was really seen as a bad man at 154, moved up to 160, sat there twiddling his thumbs, never really pushed for a Canelo fight, waited and Canelo actually moved out of the division to get his email title, have one good fight against Darvichenko, which really proved he was one of the top guys in the division, only to then go on to do fucking nothing. So him coming back against Andrade, it's an intriguing fight. Really, this fight will tell us who really has slid farther in their careers. But at this point, both of them are irrelevant, truthfully. They're talking about this being on the undercard of Tank Davis. And if it was on the undercard of Tank Davis this December, that's good. I think it's a good fight. It's better than putting a fucking Erislandy Lara, Danny Garcia fight on the undercard. But, we still got to be honest. These guys are not relevant right now. Obviously, the winner of this will become relevant. But at this point, nobody really gives a fuck if they ever saw Charlo or Andrade fight again. What's up, Sean? Madrimov Bolchuk is official. Great scrap. Great scrap. Yeah, we just talked about it. Right there. It's a great matchup. Who do you got winning, Stringer? As I said in previous videos, I favor Madrimov to win the fight. I just think he's got more in his toolbox. But you never know. Mars says, Danny Garcia says he still wants to come back. Oh, my God. Fucking retire, dude. You looked so shit. And the truth is, Danny Garcia was a okay fighter at 140. An okay fighter, right? He never fucking fought Bud Crawford because he knew he would have got exposed. And so that fight never happened. He also ducked Postal at that division as well. Did he fight Adrian Broner? No, that was an in-house PBC fight that would have made a lot of sense, right? Then he moves to 147, beat Paulie Malignaggi, the lowest denominator, right? Isn't that who he beat? Or did he beat Devin Alexander? Who did he beat to win a world title? And then he went on to lose to every single fucking legitimate fighter he fought at 147 pounds, only to then skip 154 because he knew all those guys at 154 would beat his ass and that you probably wouldn't get paid big money. So then he went up to fight Lara, who nobody wants to fight because he's irrelevant. He's a 41, 42-year-old Cuban fighter that never had a fan base, right? So nobody's intrigued by his fights at all. Golden Boy had Danny Garcia en route to become a Hall of Famer. That PBC money and soft matchmaking lost his motivation. That's true. That's like when he went to his one fight in Puerto Rico and people feel he lost in a cherry pick opponent, even though a good veteran fighter, but past his best when he fought fucking Salida, and said, why wouldn't I fight Salida? I get paid just as much money to fight him as anyone else, and it's easy work. Him and his father exposed their true narrative. I'd have to favor Madrimov as well. Plus, Madrimov must be full of confidence just knowing he was able to compete against one of the best fighters in the sport. Hey, and that's true. But, to be fair, I definitely think both guys are going to learn from those last fights, right? Obviously, Madrimov is going to learn a lot from his Bud Crawford fight. You don't fight, an excellent fighter like Bud Crawford and not improve as a result of it. And obviously for Bohulchuk being in there with Virgil Ortiz, he knows he won that fight. I'm sure he's super confident. He figures if he got a rematch, he would totally win in the rematch. So, both guys going in confident, obviously learned a lot from being in big quality fights. How about John calling Janibek an email champion, but he won't call Haney that? Well, that's what he's doing, right? He's saying it's racist. So he's trying to reverse it and saying, what's the difference between Janibek and Devin Haney? Well, I already explained that. Lomachenko did not drop his title. Haters want to tell you that he dropped his title, but everybody knows that Suleiman is the WBC fucking president. He went on record saying that Devin Haney never forced a mandatory with Lomachenko. They did not put in the paperwork to push for a Lomachenko fight, right? That's the president of the WBC that said that, right? What they wanted to do was sit there and wait to collect the title, which is pretty normal. It's what Boots did at 147. It's what lots of guys do in boxing. They don't step up and try to prove themselves and win it. They sit back and wait for the other guys to move out of the division so they can inherit it, right? And that's what he did, Devin Haney. When Suleiman elevated Lomachenko to super champion, just like the WBA has a super champion, you notice people don't get in their feelings that, somebody's a WBA super champion and somebody else is a WBA regular champion. They just accept that, primarily because that only impacts PBC fighters, right? But then they got in their feelings when Canelo became super champion and when Lomachenko became super champion for the WBC, even though the WBC did the exact same thing the WBA did. They just did a poor job implementing it. Suleiman fucking told you that Lomachenko Lopez winner was going to be undisputed. But of course, he can't really comment on the other sanctioning bodies. And unfortunately, it did not work out that way. And that's more egg on Suleiman's face because now that title is no longer available. It's gone. It retired. They tried something. It didn't work, right? But literally what Haney did was try to collect a baby belt. The same thing Tank Davis did his whole career. That's not what Janibek did. Janibek chased after the WBO champion, Demetrius Andrade, and Andrade chose to duck his mandatory, allowing Madrimov to collect that title. The same thing Bud Crawford could have done versus Funduro, and he should have, but he didn't. Mendoza, Virgil, and now Madrimov, that's some 2024 by Boholchuk. It is, eh? But of course, he's going to get very little recognition or praise. The Undisputed Boxing game finally drops for consoles Friday. I bought PS5 just for this release. I heard Ryan Garcia's avatar got removed until his suspension is up. Yeah, that's been big news, right? That based on all the shit that he's been saying, racially infused bullshit, that they pulled him off. And they should, because, him and Tio, they're not helping themselves with the bullshit they're spewing now. Everybody knows that Ryan Garcia is going to fight Devin Haney, and inevitably that's the next fight for both of those guys, because Devin Haney just ducked a world title fight with Puello, Australian fighter, because he wanted more money. But the reality is this guy just needs to get in the ring. He's not in a position where he can really be mandating for the world champion, because the world champion doesn't need Devin Haney. He could fight some easy work rollover fighter in Australia, and he's going to make career high payday. Everyone's going to pick Ryan to beat up first anyway. Well, truthfully, I mean, going into the rematch, people are going to have to be pretty confident of Ryan Garcia, because you would think he'd be better prepared than he was the first time, right? More focused. I don't know if he will, because he's a fucking idiot. But, obviously we know his power is enough to change the game. Devin Haney doesn't have that. He's got to go in there and outbox Ryan Garcia like he was for the majority of the fight, but also be defensively solid enough not to allow Ryan Garcia to connect those left hands with him. And that's the question. He got hit fucking with that shot again and again and again and again and again, unlike Tank Davis, who didn't get hit by that shot. But here's another fight that the IBF has just mandated as well. And this is a great fight. Martin Bakole versus Ajit Kabial. We were talking about how Ajit Kabial has kind of been fucked over, right? This is a guy who's really upset the apple cart, kind of like Martin Bakole, kind of like Parker, kind of like Daniel Dubois. All four of these heavyweight fighters have had career years in 2024, right? Obviously, we know Martin Bakole. There's talk about him fighting Zhang, which would be a huge heavyweight matchup, right? But Ajit Kabial deserves an opportunity as well. This is a guy who's really made a statement this year, and I would love a Martin Bakole Ajit Kabial matchup. I would favor Ajit Kabial to win that fight, because unlike Jared Anderson, Kabial is a way more professional, way more experienced fighter, has a way better chin, and I think is just a more resilient fighter, right? And obviously a guy with better technical proficiencies. Obviously, Big Baby's got more natural ability, but what's the use of having natural ability if you're not professional enough to utilize it the way you should? I think this fight, Bakole and Ajakabial, will be dynamite. What do you guys think about this matchup for the IBF? The winner of this becomes Daniel Dubois mandatory. And the winner of this versus Daniel Dubois, again, that fight is fucking dynamite. Dynamite, right? I would much rather see Daniel Dubois right now fight Joseph Parker next and not rematch Anthony Joshua and then go on to fight the winner of this next. For me, that would be great. For Daniel Dubois, I think a Parker and then a Martin Bakole Kabayal mandatory defense on your title. Those two title defenses are far more significant than taking on what now looks like a shot version of Anthony Joshua. And I'm an AJ fan, but I think this is the wrong direction for his team to put him. He should be fighting Deontay Wilder next. That's a big money fight and probably far less risky than a rematch with Daniel Dubois. What do you guys think? Didn't Janibek turn down Hamza's fight before? Well, he already had a fight scheduled, right? So he said he didn't turn it down, but obviously we know it might have been Top Rank that moved away from it. But apparently he was offered $5 million to take that fight. And the reality is, now that it's mandated, you're in a good position to force him to take the fight. So regardless, right? Good fight, but I'd rather see two huge monsters like Zhang versus Bakole. Well, the problem with that fight is Zhang has no motor, no gas tank, right? I can easily see Bakole stop Zhang after the 8th round in that fight because Zhang is just going to be gassed out after 4. If he doesn't catch Martin Bakole early, he's fucking done. Done. I love watching Kabayel fight. The way he goes to the body is just so fun to watch. Bakole is so dangerous, though. I think I would pick Bakole. See, that's why this is a great matchup. I definitely think this is a much more 50-50 fight. I don't see Zhang beating Bakole because Bakole's engine is just too good and Zhang's engine is just too shit. Like, he's got the worst engine in heavyweight boxing. Keep Bakole and his body shots away from Usyk. Laugh out loud. Well, I don't think Bakole is going to be getting a Usyk fight ever, so I don't think that's an issue to worry about. But this fight, Bakole Kabayel, great matchup. One I'd love to see. And then, of course, this weekend's matchups, or Monday, Tuesday, we have the 2-day special fight. This is fucking dynamite, man. Not enough people are talking about this. 2-day special. Fight day, 10:13, 10:14, right? 5 o'clock Japanese time it starts. Obviously you have Inui's brother on one card. You have Junto Nakatani on the other. And then what's being proposed is that the winner of this will match up for unification for the 118-pound titles. And then if Junto Nakatani is able to beat Inui's brother, then an undisputed unification fight with the monster at 122 pounds will be set. Oh my God. I know I keep pushing this fight, but there's a reason to push it. It is literally the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. It's huge, right? And this fight here, this shit is dynamite. Who does not want to see this card? I think there's 3 world title fights on Inui's card and 4 world title fights on Junto Nakatani. But let's take a quick peek. Let me just screen share. And then we can go to BoxRec and check out the specifics to this situation. Bantamweight. Takumi. There he is, my man. The man, the myth, the legend. 20-1, 5 KOs. Has showed a lot more power in his last few fights. 28 years old, literally in his prime. His last few wins, like beating Jerwin and Kanjas, stopping him in 9, great fucking fight. And then obviously Sho Ishida, beating him over 12, dominant performance. You can tell by the cards. Prior to that, he beat old ex-world champion Subriel Liborio Solis. Quality fight, but a guy who's well past his best. Good win against Shingo Wake previously. Obviously, we go back to his first world title fight when he faced Nordine Obali and ended up losing convincingly on the cards. And then obviously here he is beating Junto Nakatani's next opponent, tough Thai fighter, who at the time was 48-0, ended up beating him by 12-round decision. Junto's going to be matching him up this weekend. But let's just check out this event. Here's the card. Inoue versus Seiza Tatsumi. Tatsumi is a hard puncher. Actually, I see a lot of people picking Tatsumi to win. I think they're off base. This kid is a hard puncher, but fundamentally, he fucking is nowhere near as good as Inoue. 28 years old as well. Only 13 professional fights, right? Obviously, he's coming off a big win here against Kazuki Anaguchi, who was 6-0. He ended up beating him by decision, a late decision. And of course, Anaguchi ended up dying afterwards. Rest in peace, young man. Came in, fought a nobody, a guy who was 4-1. 4-1. Previous to that, he fought a guy 3-0, 7-2, 7-2-1, right? You look at the caliber of opponents he's been facing. Of course, he's going to look good. They're all inexperienced guys that haven't been in with top quality opponents. Whereas Inoue's been in with world champions. Ashita was a world champion. And Kanjis was a true world champion. Solis was a world champion. Wake was a world champion. Obviously fought Obali, who was a world champion. That's 5 world champions. Mark Yap, world champion. That's 6, right? Is there more? Okay. I think so. 6 world champions he's faced in his career. Now he's going to go in to do what? Defend his title. And when they made this card, they're putting him with a tough opponent, but not a guy they think can beat him. I think Tatsumi's a good fighter, but I think he's going to be outmatched against a far better technical fighter. Then, of course, you have Awata, who's going to be fighting Jera Noriaga for the WBO vacant title. Akui, who should be defending his world title versus tough Thai fighter. Akui is obviously a 112-pound world champion, right? He beat Artem Dalakian, an undefeated Ukrainian fighter, to win that title. Obviously defended it in his last fight, and now is going to be facing this Thai fighter next on this undercard. And then, of course, we have the great fighter, Kenshiro Taraji. Kenshiro Taraji, as I've mentioned multiple times, and any of you guys that are hardcore fans, you know this. This guy easily could be a pound-for-pound fighter, right? Easily could be pound for pound. You look at his resume, 23-1. He was stopped in that fight, came back, redeemed himself, just moving up now to his second weight division, fighting for the WBC vacant title that Martinez vacated for him to become a 2-weight world champion. Prior to that, he beat Carlo Canzanales, ex-world champion, Heki Butler, ex-world champion, Anthony Olagascu, current world champion, Kayaguchi, unification, world champion, Kabuki, who beat him, destroyed him in 3 rounds in the rematch, right? Then you keep going. Saul Juarez, ex-world champion. Milan Melindu, ex-world champion. Ganigan Lopez, ex-world champion. Pedro Pedroza, ex-world champion. Pedro Guerrera, ex-world champion, right? This guy became a world champion so early in his career. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In his 10th professional fight, he beat Ganigan Lopez, a veteran world champion, to become the WBC world lightweight champion, right? He's a monster. How many title defenses has he made since doing that? Obviously, he beat him, had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He lost in his 9th defense, right? Came back, won in the rematch. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 13 title defenses at 108 pounds. 13 title defenses, right? You tell me which of these PBC fighters or great American fighters has made 13 title defenses of a world title. I mean, Deontay Wilder was called a future Hall of Famer and a superstar boxer because he made 10 world title defenses at heavyweight. But yet he wasn't fighting ex-world champion, unifying world champions. He didn't unify. He didn't fight that many world champions. The guys he were fighting were limited dudes, right? outside of one fighter that people gave him credit for, who's never been a world champion in Ortiz. So I think this is a great Dynamite card. I'm excited about this fight. 1, 2, 3, 4 world title fights on this card, right? And this is just, I think, a Sunday in Japan. And then, of course, then we have Junto Nakatani. Whoa, Junto is the man. Obviously, right there, you see who's on this card. 2 world title fights and a budding superstar, the kid in the middle, that they put in the middle. This is the same kid that Floyd Mayweather fought, right? Floyd literally fought a 118-pound kickboxer in Japan. Remember that? This is the kid. Now he's a professional boxer, and he's looking good, really good, skilled. And then you look at this card, man, it should be solid. Obviously, Junto, right now currently considered a pound-for-pound fighter by a lot of people in boxing, 28-0, 21 KOs. Now currently, a 3-weight world champion after beating Alexandre Santiago to win that title, beat Vincent Astrolabio to defend the title, and now facing, obviously, Tassan Salapat, 76-1 Thai fighter. We know the Thai fighters, a lot of bums on his resume, but the resume looks nice nonetheless. RG Cortez, Andrew Maloney, Francisco Rodriguez Jr., Angel Acosta, Magramo, Melindo. You can scroll down, and there's other guys. Current champion, Akui, ex-world champion who beat Kenshiro Yabuki, right? That's pretty impressive for a young kid to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 world champions, and Cortez and Astrolabia, I don't think they've been world champions, but obviously top level dudes. So it's impressive. I'm excited. Obviously, I can't wait to see Junto fight Inoue. So I hope this unfolds the way we're hoping for. We were talking about it, and now it really looks like it's set. Obviously, on this undercard, you have his stablemate, Anthony La Scala, who is now WBO World Flyweight Champion, fighting Jonathan Gonzalez, ex-world champion. Kosei Tanaka, fighting tough South African fighter Kafu to defend his super flyweight title. And, of course, Tenjin Nakakawa, 4-0, 2 knockouts, making his 5th professional fight, 26-year-old Japanese kid. Look at who he's been fighting as a pro. Solid competition. 12-4-1, 10-2, 15-2-1, 17-2-1, and now 9-0. You look at that guy, Kermel Moten, right, who's getting so much attention from American boxing fans right now. If you look at the guys he's fought as a up-and-coming guy, his level of competition is nowhere close. He's not fighting such veteran fighters with so much experience right out of the gate. Jay Will says, if Nick destroys Fulton next, do you see Inoue entertaining that fight at 126? Big dollars in the UK. I definitely think if and when Inoue comes to the UK, I think Nick Ball is definitely probably the most likely opponent, right? Because as you say, it's a big money fight. You also got Saudi Arabia that's sort of behind it as well. So, there's a lot of money and financing behind it. And if you want to pull Inoue, who's currently a superstar out of Japan, to come fight in a different country, that's the one to make. Americans Logic, Inoue, ducking Kermel, and Shushu. Exactly. 2 guys who are far from proven at this point, right? Not that they can't go on to be great fighters. I think Shushu's excellent. I know he didn't look great in his last fight. It's just been announced that he's going to be on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson undercard, which is fantastic. I wish all boxing was on Netflix. I got Netflix, and the boxing is free on Netflix. I mean, that's great. Serrano Taylor, free. Shushu going to have a fight, quality opponent on this fight. Obviously, Jake Paul and Tyson, I don't really want to address that because I'm not in favor of it, but, it is what it is. Moten is the next American weight bully. He looks much bigger than his opposition. Well, I don't know if he's a weight bully. Physically, the way he's developed, He's never going to be a guy who can jump through many weight divisions. He's going to be like Tank Davis. He's going to be kind of limited to the amount of weight divisions he potentially can jump through because he's going to be giving up huge height and reach advantage to his opponents. But obviously right now he's filled out, right, at his weight class. He's strong, sturdy like Tank Davis. Fulton fighting Figueroa next, confirmed by Coppinger and Michael Benson. See, once again, what does that tell you? PBCBS. I thought Figueroa was fighting Vargas for Vargas's WBC title. How is Fulton involved? Oh, because he's a PBC fighter. So they're going to do that rematch. But the irony is, isn't Fulton fucking Nick Ball's fucking mandatory opponent? He could literally go to the UK to fight Nick Ball to become a world champion. Figueroa can fight Vargas to become a WBC champion. And then the PBC has 2 world champions they can then put on in a unification fight, which would be huge. But you're going to duck Nick Ball to fight Figueroa. For Funduro, it's stupid because he could make fucking huge money to go to the UK to fight Nick Ball. Nick Ball is one-dimensional, right? Figueroa is a weight bully. He's a monster. He's going to be physically way bigger than Stephen Fulton. And most people feel he won the first fight. So what's he going to do now at a bigger weight class when he can come in physically bigger? I expect him to stop Fulton in the rematch. It would have been cool if Junto and Bam fought to raise Junto's profile globally more before trying to take Inoue, but can't wait for it. Well, what they're going to do is put Inoue and Junto in America on a double header card. So if that doesn't build up his fucking name recognition globally, I don't know what else will. That will be huge just because Inoue is coming to America, right? Fulton is number 1 ranked for Nick. I wonder if that means Nick will unify. Fulton versus Ball is better, in my opinion. Much better. It makes more sense. More money and a world title on the table. Yeah, they dropped the ball on that. Yeah, I thought PBC would do Figueroa versus Vargas first and then Fulton. Well, that's what apparently was supposed to be on the Tank Davis undercard. Figueroa and Vargas. Vargas should be stripped of his title if he's not going to fight somebody. But maybe this means Nick Ball can get a Vargas rematch, right? Because I know that's what he's been pushing for. And if he can get that rematch, and with Saudi Arabia behind him, maybe that'll be enough to fucking pull Ray Vargas into that world title unification fight. And for him, it's also a world title unification fight. Sign the contract, Newton. Unboxing. Let's fight on the Usyk Fury 2 pay-per-view card. I wish. I need a big paycheck. Winner is the Canadian GOAT. You better not duck me, son. I thought the Canadian GOAT is better be it. Oh, that's a good idea. I still haven't found your basketball channel. What do you mean you haven't found it? Didn't I give you a link? I gave you a link, man. I'm not putting out as much content right now, obviously, because it's only going to start soon, but there you go. Top Rank on some BS as well. They need to do Espinoza versus Angelo Leo. Well, I don't know why they haven't done the rematch with the Cuban fighter, right? I thought that's what they were going to do. Espinoza versus fucking the Cuban kid. As far as Angelo Leo, I mean, come on, let's be real. He just had a big victory, so let's not act like anyone's ducking him. Bob Arum already told you what he wants to do. He doesn't want his fighters to unify. He wants Inoue to move to 126 and have all those fighters get the opportunity to make big money fights against Inoue, right? That's what he's hoping to do. He told us that. So, don't be surprised. Kermel Moten is the GOAT. No Bronny James content. Oh, man, I'm not somebody that's going to hate on the kid or talk about it. The only reason he's there is because of fucking nepotism. What the hell? Why is my TV fucking jumping on its own? It's on pause and it just came to life. Ring IQ. Just trolling, Sean. I know. Uh, what the fuck is that, Andre? China Clown. Flop China Clown. What's flop China Clown? Le flop, le China, le clown. Oh, LeBron James. Sorry, I'm fucking slow. Yes. Well, that was the hypocrisy, right? That you're so anti-America, but you're so pro-China. Come on, come on. I mean, that's why nobody wants to listen to LeBron James talk about politics because he's too busy at fucking Diddy parties to fucking know what's really going on in the world. Fuck that guy, stupid motherfucker. But this card is great. Obviously, one, two, three world title fights on this one as well. And Tension is going to be fighting for the WBO Asian Pacific Bantamweight title against this kid, Sherwin Asilo. Must be a Filipino. Yep, 9-0, 4 knockouts, 23 years old, the Gladiator. Okay. His last few fights, fought a kid 11-2, fought a guy 19-5-1. So, he's been stepping up his level of opposition, fighting domestic level Filipino fighters. I would think Tension should beat him convincingly, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, we have XL James Jr. XL James Jr. This kid is Japanese. Sounds like American born with that name. But overall, fantastic weekend. 3 big cards. I'm super excited. Lakers ain't making the playoffs. Le Juice, ha ha ha. That's a good one. I'm stealing it. I have nothing against the Lakers. It's just, I wish LeBron would just shut up and dribble and do what you get paid to do. Play basketball. And that's your legacy. Nobody gives a fuck what you have to say politically. And they shouldn't, because you got nothing fucking worth listening to. I'm hoping Dallas does well. I'm all in for Dallas, but I'm super excited for the Knicks as well. I think the Knicks getting my man from Minnesota was fucking a steal. For Minnesota, I don't think it's going to really hurt them, except that I think Randall is not going to be great for their chemistry. His defense is shit. He's a ball stop, and I don't think he can stretch the floor nearly as well. So, I don't know if he's a great addition, but obviously the guard depth that they got in the trade, that's definitely good. Sixers, no, Embiid is definitely going to be hurt this year, and Paul George easily could be hurt as well. So then once again, you're leaving it to your Kentucky guard to carry the team, and unfortunately, that ain't going to fucking work. I love Golden State, but I definitely see Golden State is on the way out, and I'm super excited to see Clay go to Dallas to play beside Kyrie and fucking Luka. Woo! Man, lights out. Lights out. It's going to be fun. And I'm also a Denver fan. But Denver, I don't know if they've added key parts to their roster. I'm curious to see how Russell's going to be. I think Russell potentially could be exactly what they need because obviously Murray is always hurt. He doesn't have someone to push him. Russell's going to push him. And if Russell can somehow find how to work with the big man, then it could rejuvenate his career. He's still obviously super athletic, plays great defense, something they need, especially from, the point of attack. And he definitely brings that, which could be fundamentally important in the playoffs. I think if I recall, you said you're in Taiwan. Do they have boxing matches you go to? Guy fought Sam Goodman last fight. Boxing is becoming a little more pronounced now because we've had a few Olympic boxers do well, like that transgendered woman that obviously fought in the Olympics as well, and a few others. But boxing, Taiwanese people, they're baseball fans. They love everything that Japan loves, so maybe now they're starting to like boxing more. But they're more focused on education. Sports is never a big thing. So, if you love sports, Taiwan is not the place to live. I think Mavs versus Nuggets will be the conference finals. I think Memphis could be a fucking sleeper. Obviously, Ja is back, and they've always been a good team, but unfortunately, some unfortunate circumstances impacted them. Jamal Murray has to be better. He hurt his team last year in 2022 bubble, 2023 playoffs. Murray was a beast. Yeah, well, that's the thing. As long as he stays healthy and confident, he's unstoppable offensively. Defensively, he's not great, but offensively, he really allows the big man to be the big man, right? And definitely benefits Gordon and what's his face as well, allowing them to not have to do so much heavy lifting. But even this year for the Canadian Olympic team, he did nothing. And you would have figured on that team, where mostly all he had to do was be a second or a third scorer on that team, that it would have been perfect for him. But he was useless. Useless. Fucking, what's his face? The guy that LeBron James embarrassed, he fucking did way better. He was fundamental to the team because we have no big men, right? And of course, we didn't even have the top draft, one of the top draft picks, my man coming out of, Purdue. He wasn't even on the team. Yeah, it was shocking to see. Yeah, disappointing. I was definitely hoping Canada could come through and get a bronze. You got a better end of that Towns Randall trade. I think the Knicks did. I think Towns is the perfect player to put into that Knicks roster. Perfect. Randall is a shit defender, a ball stop, doesn't rebound nearly as well as he should, right? And in the playoffs, he's fucking useless. Now you got a big defensive center, you got a star fucking guard, and then you got Randall, who's going to fucking think somehow he deserves 20 shots a game. And in this roster, he's probably going to get 20 shots a game. But I think he will play this year, and then they won't re-sign him next year. They will use that cap space to re-sign other players on his team, and he'll be fucking bye-bye. But the guard, what's his face? Devchenko, Davincio, you know, what's his name? Fuck, the white guard. I definitely think he's going to be a good addition for them. Good three-point shooter, tough, gritty player. Definitely gives them depth in the guard position. Has Ryan entered the VADA testing? I heard he has 48 hours to not do Devin rematch. Whatever. I'd be like, fuck you. The only fight you guys want is our fight because you're not going to make fucking $5 million fighting anybody else. But fighting me, you're going to make $30 million. So go fuck yourself. That's what I would say. Go fuck yourself. I'm going to use as much PEDs as I want. If you want to fucking fight me, you go use PEDs too. Stop fucking crying like a bitch. Because the truth is, Devin Haney's not going to fight until the Ryan Garcia rematch. He's literally allowed himself to be fucking put on suspension instead of doing what he should do, bouncing back. Mentally, he needs to bounce back. But he walked away from an opportunity for a world title and a bounce back fight. And what's he going to do? Now go to court to try to make more money and try to pressure Ryan Garcia's team to what? Rematch him? They were always going to rematch because it's the biggest money fight for both of those pricks. And in truth, I would love to see it never happen. And I don't need to see either one of those two fighters ever fight again because neither of them bring anything to boxing. You see Real Madrid lose to a bum team in Champions League. Real Madrid, man, it's a super team, right? But it's like Team USA in the Olympics. You don't win because you have all the big names on your team. You need chemistry, right? Real Madrid signed all these great players, but what chemistry do they have? Who's their leader? Mbappe is cancer, right, to fucking the dressing room. You got rid of some of your veteran players. So then is it a surprise that they're all over the place? Everybody thinks they're a star. Nobody's willing to play for the team. No one's willing to fucking step back and allow other people to do great. So, yeah. Don't be surprised that they fucking shit the bed this year. Cat is the best three-point shooting big in the league. He is, man. He's dynamite. He's the perfect complement player for the Knicks, right? Perfect. All in prime, start one, bench one, cut one. Well, to be fair, you know, Duncan was more of a power forward than a center, so he probably shouldn't be on this list. I'm biased, so I would start Hakeem because he brings way more to my team defensively, offensively. I would bench Duncan and I would cut Shaq. Because once again, Shaq's ego is the reason why Orlando fucked up, why LA fucked up. Great player, dominant player. But yeah, Haney needs Ryan more than Ryan needs them. Of course he does. Ryan sells pay-per-views regardless of who he fights. He could fight Tio next. That'll do huge numbers, right? He could go up to 147 and fight fucking Boots. That'll do huge numbers. It's going to get knocked out, but nonetheless, the pay-per-view, the money it brings them is going to be huge. Ryan should call their bluff and agree to their terms and tell Haney he can't participate with Snack. Level the playing field, as Floyd would say. Yeah, but Haney's team feels that they're in the position of leverage. Madrid missing a Sergio Ramos type leader. Exactly, right? No leader. I like Bellingham. He's great, but he's young. Mbappe, idiot, right? They don't have a natural fucking striker. You got fucking Vincenzo, overrated, right? Rodri, great player. But where's he going to play? Is he starting? Mbappe's playing in the middle. You got Rodri and Vicente there, and then Bellingham coming in the middle as well. I don't know what they're doing, but we're going to be talking more about soccer on my soccer channel, so go check that out. uh, unfortunately, I don't know shit about basketball. Laugh out loud. Yeah, it is what it is. You can't follow everything, right? There's not enough time in the day to dedicate yourself to everything out there. Before I was really, really a diehard fucking basketball fan. I could tell you every single player on every single team. And I followed the draft like crazy. Obviously, now I put far more of my energy into boxing. But obviously, I still love basketball, specifically college basketball. But, it is what it is. I'm also a huge Liverpool fan. But, obviously, I'm not a diehard crazy motherfucker like some of these football fans. I consider myself far more centered. But that's true with basketball, true with football, and true with boxing. When you become 56 years old, you no longer are so fanatical, you would think. I'm always surprised watching some of these Liverpool channels how negative people are. They just shit on everything, moaning and groaning, pissing and fucking groaning. It's like, Jesus, man, relax. You have no faith? It's the same as boxing. I have faith good fights are going to be made. Spence and Crawford, I had faith, got made. Pacquiao and Manny against Mayweather, I had faith, it got made, right? You have faith. No, but of course you come on and start talking bullshit because, of course, that's you. Once again, doing what? Pushing racial fucking narratives, right? It's never me pushing it. It's people like you in the comment section. If you guys would shut the fuck up, we would never have these conversations. But where are we? I don't understand soccer. I'm surprised Benavidez is fighting Morale. I expected him to fight Hart and wait around for Bivol Beterbiev winner. But the PBC is never going to have him fight Bivol Beterbiev winner. That's a pipe dream. They're going to fucking keep him to put him on their pay-per-views in America on fucking Prime. They're not going to have him fight on DAZN under Saudi Arabia. Sadly, I'm a Man U fan. Well, the same as me as a Liverpool fan. You got to be positive because when you look at Man U's legacy and Liverpool's legacy, fucking dominance, right? So obviously Liverpool went through some hard times. Man U fucking caught up to us in all leagues titles and whatnot, and so Liverpool finally got back to where we once were. and Man U will do it as well. It's just secular, right? And this is like life in general. Like, look what's going on in the Middle East right now. War against Israel again. This is nothing new. It's secular. The shit fucking comes around all the time, consistently. Fighting Lebanon and Iran, fuck, like I haven't heard that news before. I mean, I think I've heard that news probably on 5 to 6 separate occasions throughout my lifetime. So it's not a shock. When I see it now, I'm like, who gives a fuck? You made your bed, fucking sleep in it. I followed football most of my life, started to lose interest after Christian and Messi exited their primes. Yeah, but to be fair, there's always new, up and coming, great young players in sports, all sports, right? That's why when boxers I like lose, I don't lose sleep over it because there's always new, exciting fighters that are going to step into their shoes. I mean, we might not necessarily get a Ronaldo or Messi level player because you look at Mbappe, Haaland, great players, but Messi and Ronaldo, calm down. They're not that fucking good. Not even close. I mean, Messi, what he's doing now in the US is still fucking great. Fantastic. God only knows what Cristiano Ronaldo is doing over in fucking Saudi Arabia because nobody's watching. But, obviously there's always new players that come in. And, that's why if you support a team, it's more interesting. Careful with that talk show on YouTube canceling channels. I just said the truth. I didn't say one thing or another. The truth is, this shit fucking consistently happens all the time. It's nothing new. And most of these videos I'm watching are on fucking YouTube. So how can they cancel me when they're putting these videos on YouTube? The only reason I know anything about it is because of YouTube. Because I don't watch the news in Taiwan, and I don't think the news in Taiwan is even talking about fucking Israel and the rest of that. Apparently, they just canceled Sean's. YT probably gets tired of people crying. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Did they just cancel me? Are you going live on Saturday? Well, Sunday my time. But yes, I'm trying to. But once again, it's the same fucking issue I had trying to purchase this fucking pay-per-view, right? Like, I don't know what the Zone did, but, you go to it, you sign in, so I'm signed in, all you see is fucking Japanese baseball. That's why it's not so interesting watching fucking DAZN because, outside of boxing, there's nothing to watch. I scroll through prelims. So there we are, right? It's there. Click on it. And now look. Get started. What do you mean get started? I'm already signed into DAZN. Get started. And now it's going to take me somewhere else. So now I need to fucking tap the link to get started to go to a different version of DAZN. Continue. And now I need to get started and sign in again. What are you fucking talking about? what are you talking about? That's what I don't know what they fucking did, man. But they've complicated shit so much. It's crazy. So let's see. Will it let me pay? So it looks like it worked, but then there's no email. Yeah. So I don't even know what happened. It's like, what are you doing, man? And then my DAZN still says this, even though I just fucking did it. Uh, 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 like, you want people to pay. Make it easy. Push the button, take money off my card. It's a fucking iPhone, right? It's hooked up with your credit card. It should not be fucking complicated, but apparently it is. DAZN's tripping. They're definitely making things more complicated. Careful with that. Where are we? DAZN is tripping. They're tripping, man. Do you watch UFC? I don't really watch UFC. The only fighter I really liked was John Jones, but he doesn't fight very regularly. But I did watch last week's main event. Pereira beat the fuck out of that guy. I did watch that fight. Pereira is a beast, a monster. Very entertaining fighter. The guy's like the UFC's version of fucking Better BF. Granite fists, right? That guy was landing some big shots, just breaking that dude's face down. But yeah, excellent. Excellent. But overall, I mean, it's great to see. Some people, right, are just mental cases. You could always use crack stream. No, I do. But the problem is whenever you use fucking streams, it's just not as good. You got to refresh it. Fucking it freezes. It's a pain in the ass. I'm a hardcore boxing fan. I don't mind paying to watch fucking big events, especially this kind of fight. I want to watch it on my big screen TV and fucking enjoy it. I don't want to have to fucking watch a shit fucking version on my computer, right? Nobody wants that shit. I want to see the best, the best. Why do you pay all this money for a big screen TV? And then, you pay for fucking subscriptions and then you have to deal with all this bullshit. Like, and you pay for the subscription. So it should be easy to use the product. What does my TV say if I go here? Because before I could just click on my button and it would just charge me through my cable network. Easy, right? He's just consistently still pushing racial fucking BS. Like the only one talking racial is him, right? Like, go fuck yourself, man. We don't need you pushing your racial bullshit and then moaning and groaning that people only talk about race. It's people like you that consistently make it a topic. Literally, we're talking about all the great things going on in boxing, all the fights that are announced, the fights this weekend, and then this fucking dummy is coming out here talking loads of bullshit. Open workouts today at 1:55. Bivol and Better BF. See? And then here, scan to purchase. And then it's going to take me to the same thing I just showed you. So I can't even just pay on my fucking TV. I need to scan to purchase, which is going to bring me around to the same bullshit that I just did. You saw me do it, and it still wouldn't let me fucking pay. I'm going crazy. But, ladies, gentlemen, it's almost 1:20 here. I'm going to go take a walk. I have an electric scooter that needs to get the tire changed. But unfortunately, I bought it at Costco. But where can I get it fixed? Who knows? So apparently there's a place not that far from my house, even though when I drove around, I never could see it. But I'm going to go walk this time and see if I can stumble upon it. Wish me luck. Obviously, we're going to be talking about more boxing this weekend. Hopefully, I'll go live for Better BF and Bivol. If nothing else, I'll go live at least for that fight, for that one specific fight. Even though it's going to be early in the morning, because of course it's UK time, which is also detrimental to me as well. But stay tuned. We'll be here. Have a nice week. Happy birthday, Taiwan.